Level 1, The Peasant. You were born in a village that has no name on any map. It has a name to the people who live there, but no one in the capital has ever heard it. The house is stone and mud. The roof is low. There is one room for sleeping, one room for everything else. Your family shares it with the animals in winter. The cold comes down hard from the mountains. Nothing survives outside, not in that cold. Your father farms a plot of land he does not own. His father farmed it before him. His father before that. The land belongs to a Sipahi, a cavalry soldier granted the right to collect taxes from your village by the Sultan himself. You have never met the Sipahi. You know his name. You know what he takes. He takes a portion of your grain after harvest. He takes a labor tax in the form of your time. He takes a road toll. Move goods to market and you pay again. You pay and you do not complain. There is no one to complain to, nowhere to send it. Complaining goes nowhere. The Sipahi reports to the provincial governor. The governor reports to Istanbul. Istanbul is a city you will never see. You plant wheat in the spring. You tend it through the summer heat. You harvest in the fall. You move quickly. Rain at the wrong moment ruins everything. The quota is what it is. After the Sipahi takes his share, after the grain tithe goes to the state, what remains is yours. It feeds your family until the next harvest. In a good year, that is enough. In a bad year, you borrow. You try not to. Debt is dangerous here. Borrowing from the wrong man is how families lose everything. You have seen it happen. You do not borrow. You eat less instead. Everyone does. The village eats less together. Your children help in the fields. They do this before they can read. Some of them will never learn to read. Most of them will live and die in this same valley, this same work. That is not a tragedy to you. It is simply the shape of a life. Every life has a shape. Most people do not choose it. You know your prayers and you say them before dawn. You know the rhythms of the land. You know your neighbors and they know you. You know who helped carry a roof beam when your wall collapsed in the spring floods. You know who brought food when your wife was too sick to cook. There is a man 3 plots over who let your family draw from his well for an entire dry season. He asked nothing in return. You will not forget that. You do not have words for how much that matters. The village is a web of debts and favors. No one records them. Everyone knows. You have never signed a contract in your life. You have never needed one. A man's word and a witness are enough when everyone knows where you sleep. That is not nothing. That is almost everything. Level 2, The Artisan. You left the village at 14. Your uncle was a leather worker in a provincial town. He had no sons. He took you in. You swept his workshop for a year before he let you touch the tools. You watched everything. You memorized the way he cut the hides, the angles, the pressure, the spacing of the stitches. By the time he handed you a knife, your hands already knew what to do. The craft guilds of the Ottoman Empire are the bones of every town. The guild controls who can open a shop. It controls what prices can be charged. It controls what quality standards must be met. Your uncle was a guild member in good standing. His membership was your door. You became an apprentice officially recorded in the guild register. Your name in that register meant you existed in the eyes of the state. That was something you had never had in the village. After 5 years you became a journeyman. After 10 more, you became a master. The guild tested you. They examined your work in front of senior members who had been doing this for decades. Your hands did not shake. Your work was accepted. You opened your own shop on a street where 7 other leather workers operated. Competition was not cutthroat. The guild managed it. No one undercut prices. No one expanded beyond their designated space. The system was rigid and sometimes frustrating, but it was stable. You knew what you would earn. You knew what your costs would be. You knew the market would not suddenly collapse. Your neighbor could not simply decide to sell boots for half the price overnight. The guild had obligations too. Charity to members who fell ill. Contributions to the upkeep of the local mosque. Participation in the processions that marked religious festivals and military victories. You carried a banner when the governor returned from a campaign last summer. There were hundreds of artisans in the column. Each guild walked with its own banner. Each had its own place in the order. The shoemakers walked before the tailors. The tailors walked before the copper workers. You walked with the leather workers in the middle of the column. 3 survived infancy. You do not speak about the 4th. Your oldest boy is already in the workshop. You can see yourself in the way he holds a blade. You were that careful at his age. You were that serious. Your name is in the guild register. Your shop has been in the same spot for 20 years. The city grew around it. When you die, your son will inherit the chair. Level 3, the soldier. You are a janissary. You were not born to this. You were taken to it. The devshirm is the system the empire uses to collect boys from Christian families. In the Balkans and Anatolia. You were 8 years old. You remember the officials coming to your village. You remember your mother's face when they pointed at you. You were chosen because you were healthy and sharp-eyed and tall for your age. They took 12 boys from your region that year. You were converted to Islam. You were given a Turkish name. You were sent to the capital. The training begins immediately and it does not end. For years you learn Turkish, the Quran, military discipline, and obedience. The obedience is the most important lesson. They teach it first. They teach it last. The Janissary Corps is the Sultan's personal army. You belong to him completely. No family ties, no inheritance, no wife until you reach a senior rank. You are a weapon. Weapons do not have complicated loyalties. Your barracks is your home. Your unit is your family. The men you eat with are the people who matter most. The men you drill with, the men you march with. You sleep alongside them. In the cold of Anatolian winters, you eat from a shared cauldron. The cauldron means something in ways that outsiders do not understand. If the unit refuses to lift the cauldron, that is how the palace knows a revolt is coming. One gesture, that is all it takes. When you finally see combat, you understand why the training was what it was. The janissaries are the most feared infantry force in the known world. You have drilled with firearms when most European armies are still arguing about whether gunpowder is honorable. Your lines hold under pressure that breaks other men. You are not fighting for land or glory or a paycheck. Not really. None of it comes close. You are fighting because you belong to something. That belonging runs deep in a way that words do not fully capture. You have served in 3 campaigns. You have stood in gun smoke on open ground and held your position when everything in your body was telling you to run. You crossed a river under arrow fire once. You do not remember deciding to cross it. Your body simply moved because the men on your left and right were moving. That is what belonging does to you. You have wounds that ache in cold weather. You always will. You have done things you do not discuss. You never will. You are paid regularly. Your stipend arrives on time. You do not take that for granted. Some men serve and never see it. That is not nothing in an empire this size. Level 4, the merchant. You move between cities. That is your life. Istanbul to Bursa to Aleppo to Cairo and back. The roads are Ottoman roads. The Hans along the route are Ottoman Hans. Stone caravanserai built by the state. Merchants sleep there safely. They store their goods. No strongman charges them for the privilege. The sultans understood that trade is wealth, and wealth is power. They built the infrastructure. They kept the roads relatively safe. That is more than most empires ever manage. You know this. You have traveled enough to know. You deal in silk and spices and cloth. Occasionally in things that are harder to name on a customs document. The customs officials at every major checkpoint have their rates. Some rates are official, some are informal. You know the difference. You have been doing this for 15 years. Your father did it before you. His father was a small trader in a provincial market. You expanded what they built. Your warehouse in Bursa holds more goods than your grandfather ever saw in his life. You are not nobility. You do not have titles, but you have connections that matter more than titles in practical terms. You know which port official processes your manifest quickly. You know which road is safe in which season, and which road has been watched by bandits since the garrison post washed out. You know which merchant in Aleppo is reliable. And which one will dispute the weights after the deal is made. You know which inspector at the Syrian border takes his payment in coin, and which one prefers goods. Knowledge is the real trade. The silk and the spice are just what knowledge looks like when it moves through the world. You pay your taxes because the alternative is worse. You have seen the alternative. You attend the mosque on Fridays because the community is real. The relationships formed there are part of how business gets done. You are not cynical about the faith. You are practical about everything, including the faith. The empire is good for business when it is stable. You have watched what happens when it is not. You know which side of that line you want to be on. Level 5, the scholar. You are an alim, a man of religious learning. You spent 15 years in the madrasas, working through the curriculum that the Ottoman state uses to produce judges, teachers, and legal scholars. You were a disciplined student. You read Arabic and Persian. You can argue fine points of Hanafi jurisprudence for hours without losing the thread. The ilmi hierarchy is a career ladder with clear rungs. Lowest is the teacher in a provincial madrasa. He shapes boys who will become craftsmen and soldiers and farmers. Then comes the madaris of a larger school in a major city. Then the qadis, the judges who apply Islamic law in the courts every day. Then the kadiaskers, the chief military judges who oversee legal affairs for entire regions. At the top is the Seyhul Islam in Istanbul. His fatwa can sanctify or condemn the sultan's decisions. You are a qadi in a city of 40,000 people. You hear disputes every morning. Property lines contested for generations. Inheritance claims where the numbers do not add up. Contracts gone wrong when the price of goods shifted after the agreement was signed. Accusations of theft where the witness list is suspicious. Domestic disputes that have festered for years. They finally arrive at your door because someone ran out of patience. You apply the Sharia as interpreted through the Hanafi school. Your rulings are recorded by a court scribe. Those registers stack up over the decades. They become a complete documentary history of this city's daily life. You are a servant of God and a servant of the state. Sometimes those two things align perfectly. Sometimes the alignment requires thought that the texts alone cannot provide. You know the legal precedents deeply. You also know that the law is interpreted by human beings who bring their limitations to every decision. A man came to you last month, claiming his brother stole from their father's estate. The brother sat 2 feet away and told a different story. Both were telling versions of the truth. You found the path that the law offered and you walked it. You will not know for years whether you got it right. You try to do better than your limitations allow. Some days you succeed. You will be judged on the balance of those days. There are days when the judgment is easy. The law is clear. The case resolves in an hour. There are days when two honest people sit across from each other and both are right and wrong in different proportions. The law gives you a direction but not a destination. You find the destination yourself. Level 6, The provincial governor. You are a bey, a governor of a sanjak. That is one of the administrative subdivisions of the empire. It can sit anywhere from the Balkans to the edges of Persia. You were appointed by the Sultan through the recommendation of your patron in the central government. Your appointment is not permanent. You serve at the Sultan's pleasure. If you perform well, you advance to a larger province. If your patron falls from favor in Istanbul, your posting is quietly reassigned to someone else. The job is bigger than most people outside it understand. You manage tax collection from every district under your authority. The numbers must be correct. When the report goes to Istanbul, discrepancies invite questions you do not want to answer. You maintain the military readiness of the Sipahi cavalry in your territory. Those men are the empire's provincial backbone. You keep order. That sounds simple. It is not simple. You hear appeals that the local Qadas cannot resolve. You receive petitions from merchants whose goods were seized. You receive complaints from village headmen about soldiers who quartered themselves uninvited. You receive everything that has no other place to go. You adjudicate all of it. You also build a new mosque, a functioning fountain, a repaired bridge. That cuts 2 days off a trade route. The governor who leaves behind something visible is remembered. You intend to be remembered. Level 7, the Vizier. You are in the Divan, the Imperial Council. The inner mechanism of the greatest empire on earth. The Viziers meet in the Topkapi Palace and decide the business of a state that stretches across 3 continents. Military campaigns that require years of preparation. They cost fortunes before a single soldier moves. Tax policy for provinces with wildly different economies. Legal disputes that have nowhere else to go. Diplomatic correspondence with the kings of France, the Doge of Venice, the Shah of Persia. A dozen other rulers who want something from the empire, or fear something from it. You reached this position through decades of patient service. Your performance as a governor was examined carefully. Your reputation for competence and loyalty was examined. You cultivated relationships with men who had the Sultan's ear. You are careful which ones. All of that together over 20 years produced this seat at the table. You are one of several viziers. At the head of the council sits the Grand Vizier, the Sadrazam. He holds the Sultan's seal. He runs the empire's daily business in the Sultan's name. The Sultan does not attend most council sessions. He watches from behind a latticed window. Everyone in the room knows this. You conduct yourself accordingly at all times. The politics of the Divan are fierce. The landscape shifts. Alliances that held last season are under strain this season. Men who smiled at you last month are positioning around you now. You have survived 2 Grand Viziers who fell from power. One was replaced quietly, one was not. Surviving required reading the temperature of the court correctly. It required detaching from losing factions before the fall. You watched men hold on too long once. You remember what happened to them. You are not proud of all those calculations. But you made them, and you are still here. You made them anyway because the alternative was disappearing from political life entirely. Level 8, the Grand Vizier. The Sultan handed you the imperial seal. That moment is engraved in your memory with a precision that ordinary moments never carry. The seal means you are the empire's daily voice. Not the Sultan, who is also the empire, but you, conducting its business on his behalf every ordinary day. You manage campaigns that move hundreds of thousands of men across terrain that would break a lesser organization. You oversee conscription, provisioning, and the negotiation of alliances with rulers whose loyalty lasts exactly as long as your last favor. You manage finances flowing from customs duties, land taxes, tribute, and trade monopolies across regions most subordinates have never visited. You sign documents that change the lives of millions of people who will never know your name. That is the job. The pressure is constant. It never lifts. the Sultan is present even when absent. Every decision you make is one he could reverse without explanation. Every success belongs to him. That is how it has always worked. Every failure belongs to you alone. Grand viziers are replaced when they are no longer useful. They are replaced when they offend. They are replaced when a faction convinces the Sultan that someone else would serve better. Some Grand Viziers are retired to provincial estates. Some lose more than their position in the week they lose the seal. You knew this when you accepted it. You accepted it anyway. You believed you were capable of the work. The alternative was watching someone less capable carry it. That is the honest reason. This position demands complete honesty with yourself. You practice it daily. Self-deception at this level is catastrophic. You also manage time. Your own time is the scarcest resource you have. Requests arrive by the hundreds. Every provincial governor wants an audience. Every military commander wants resources. Every diplomat wants a response. Every merchant guild wants a ruling on a tax exemption. You cannot do everything. You cannot even come close. You cannot read everything. You have learned to find the person in each bureau who actually understands the situation and trust their summary. That skill saved you in the first year, when you were still trying to read every document yourself. It was destroying you. Level 9, the Sultan's family. You are a prince. An Ottoman prince. That means you were born into a world of gilded cages and absolute potential and absolute danger. Your father is the Sultan. Your brothers are your rivals in a way that no brother outside the palace could ever understand. The Ottoman succession does not work the way European succession works. There is no guaranteed primogeniture. The throne goes to the son who can take it and hold it. In the early centuries, that meant armed campaigns between brothers. Civil war fought while the father was still alive or barely cold. The empire eventually formalized what had always happened anyway. When a sultan took the throne, his brothers were strangled with a silk cord to prevent further conflict. The cord was silk because royal blood could not be shed by a blade. You grew up knowing this. Every prince grows up knowing this. The knowledge is never spoken directly. It sits in the room during every family gathering. Like furniture that everyone sees. Like furniture that no one names out loud.